Now, professor and founding director of the Center for Anti-Racist Research at Boston University, Ibram Kendi. He is also the author of How to Be a Young Anti-Racist. Dr. Kendi, thank you so much for joining us. I wanted to talk to you specifically because you do now have this book about being a young anti-racist, and I am thinking about this conversation about policing in the context of the conversation about Governor Ron DeSantis not wanting AP AFAM history in the state of Florida, and in so much tinkering with the College Board that the College Board itself decided to change the parameters of its curriculum. Can you talk about policing in this country? Can you reform policing in this country without students having an education, a fundamental understanding of this country's history?
I don't think you can. And I think part of the reason why many people continue to tinker around the edges of American policing, thinking that that's going to lead to less people dying, is because they don't have an understanding of the history of American policing, that it emerged during slave patrols, that it is in many ways thrives on the idea that Black and brown people are dangerous and those police officers are there to quote, keep us safe, when indeed they create all sorts of danger for those Black and brown people. And so if you don't understand the history of American policing, it's hard to understand the history of American racism. And if you don't understand the history of American racism, it's hard to understand the history of the United States.
Dr. Kendi, our friend Wesley Lowery has a beautiful piece in The Atlantic that I hope that all of our viewers will read. And he writes, "For all of her clarity and grace, Memphis Police Chief Davis is a breathing reminder that systemic problems will not be solved by representational victories. The solution to police violence is no more the hiring of Black cops than the solution to mass incarceration is gender diversity among prison guards." I think people have looked for answers, Dr. Kendi. They have looked for programs, for trainings, for things that they believe can change the system, and are now reckoning with the fact that those answers are not sufficient.
Indeed, and Wesley, in his excellent piece, pointed out that in Memphis, you had a Black police chief, you had a majority Black police force, you had de-escalation training, you had body cameras, you had a policy to intervene, but still, Tyre Nichols is dead. They had passed all of the reforms that people claimed was going to stop people from being killed at the hands of the police. And so at some point, we have to realize that there's something deeper, that there's something more fundamental that needs to be changed and eradicated. And that's why so many people are questioning, if not outright rejecting, the idea that police can be reformed.
I am, of course, intrigued by your new book, How to Be a Young Anti-Racist, in part because I am a mom. I am raising two girls. These are conversations. They're still pretty little. I know that we are going to have. I mean, talk to us about how this book and this work is fundamentally different and in many ways the same as your first book, How to Be an Anti-Racist.
Well, what makes it the same is many of the stories of my own journey, particularly as a youngster, coming to grips with the ideas that caused me to think Black people were dangerous as opposed to American racism. Many of those stories and many of that journey itself is still there, but Nick Stone, my co-author, completely rewrote the book and added a voice that would be relevant to young people, because young people are trying to understand what happened to Tyre Nichols. Young people want to be part of a force of change, and we're trying to guide them in that direction with How to Be a Young Anti-Racist.
The core question in Wesley Lowery's piece about policing is what a racial reckoning will actually require, right? That we've seen a number of times when it has seemed as though the energy is there, the attention is there, and then you have something like the killing of Tyre Nichols that reminds you that the progress has not been made legislatively, policy-wise, reform-wise, to actually match the energy on the ground. And so I wonder, as someone who is thinking about this through the lens of what we teach individuals what you believe that reckoning will require?
Well, that reckoning will require us to first and foremost recognize that if we have racial disparities and even injustices in our communities, if we have a situation in which 1,000 Americans are dying at the hands of police and they're disproportionately Black and brown, we would realize that the problem aren't people. The problem aren't Black and brown people. The problem aren't their behavior, their culture, what they're doing wrong. The problem is racist policies and practices. And it's our job to figure out what those policies are. It's our job to eliminate those policies. It's our job to replace them with more equitable and just policies so that people can feel safe. You know, indeed, one of the most powerful lines in Wesley's piece is when he said people called for safety and they were given police.
Dr. Ibram Kendi, thank you so much for being with us. The new book, How to Be a Young Anti-Racist. Again, Dr. Kendi, thank you.